But now we take you to the Sundance Film Festival, where we were able to spend time with the native role model, Heather Rae.
Heather Rae is a 20-year veteran of the film industry. She has worked on more than 24 documentary and narrative film projects.
She was named one of the 10 producers to watch for her success with both independent and mainstream films.
From the Academy Award-nominated Frozen River to the nationally broadcast documentary Trudell, let's go to Bronwyn Walsh at the Sundance Film Festival for an exclusive interview with Heather Rae.
I'm sitting here at the Sundance Co-op with Miss Heather Rae, filmmaker of the newly premiered Ass Backwards.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What kind of style do you usually work with?
Well, most of the stuff I've done has been more like social realism, like really serious dramas and, subject matter that has more kind of gravitas to it. And then, of course, social issue documentaries. So this is like female Dumb and Dumber. Like, it's a really silly comedy.
Have you ever worked with youth?
We all have the things that we care about that we're really committed to. And youth is certainly one of those things for me. I have 3 kids of my own as well, so I am a mother. But I've done a lot of work with kids through various organizations on a number of reservations throughout the country. And I'm also in the process right now of creating a nonprofit organization that is an organization that will facilitate internships for kids that are aging out of the foster care system. That's a demographic that's really, really underserved in this country. In fact, I'd say it's a demographic that most people don't even really know about. And it's about 1 million kids a year. And by the way, Native kids are a really, really high statistic in that demographic. In fact, disproportionate to their, relationship to the population. African American kids and Native kids are completely, affected by that system. And when you turn 18, you essentially have to get, out of your group home. You have a 5-day grace period to get out of your group home or your foster home, and you're basically on your own. I made a documentary about the foster care system a few years ago. It's on Showtime right now. And that I spent 5 years embedded in that world. And it's also part of my own family story. And out of that came such an awareness and realization that, these kids, these parentless kids, are our responsibility as a nation. And we need to be looking out for them and finding ways to support them. Because a lot of them don't even have a place to go, for the holidays. I mean, it's literally like the holidays, arrive, and while most of us go home to our families, there are hundreds of thousands of kids that have absolutely nowhere to go and no connections. And so while the focus of this organization is going to be really about, finding work and developing a career and essentially finding a way to sustain yourself as an adult, I do hope that eventually that will develop into other things where there's kind of, mentorships and kind of a big brother, big sister system, or a kind of foster family, even though you're over 18, You can have a connection to someone, because when you're a young person coming up, sometimes you just want to call somebody up and say, can I ask for your advice, or what do you think about this? So I'm really committed to kids having a voice. That's part of what I'm getting to here, is I'm really committed to kids having a voice and knowing how to develop that voice and trust themselves,
What was your childhood like?
Beautiful in the sense that I was raised in central Idaho in the mountains, and I grew up, really close to the land and rode a horse every day. But my family, it was a complicated upbringing because it was a family that was entrenched in transgenerational patterns of alcoholism, violence, and poverty. So, that's what I came out of. And I left home when I was 15 and decided to go into the world on my own and find my own way.
What got you interested in, your involvement in the Institute? I know you're big on programming and you're really involved here.
I was hired to build the Native American program, the Native program, which is now called the Native Indigenous programs because it's become more global in its endeavors. But I was here for 6 years developing that program, and a lot of films came out of the program during that time, like Smoke Signals and Randy Redroad's The Doughboy. Over the years, I've had a few different films that have been here that have played in the festival as both a producer and a director. And I've served on a number of advisory committees for the Institute. And for the last 3 years, I've been on the board of trustees. So I'm just in my last stretch as a trustee. And this movie that's here right now is my 7th film to be here. One is a documentary that I produced and directed called Trudell. And then I produced another film that was here in 2008 called Frozen River. That film actually won the Grand Jury Prize that year and was acquired by Sony Picture Classics and released theatrically in the United States. And it went on to win 22 Best Picture awards and throughout the world, and was nominated for 7 Spirit Awards, and then was also nominated for 2 Academy Awards.
What is one of the main highlights that you hope your students would take with them?
The thing that I was really committed to when I was teaching at Boise State, and the ways in which I've taught traveling around, is just to be an independent thinker, like to look at things with your own eyes and really understand media and cinema in a way that you're asking questions, and that the work is actually inciting a dialogue, and you're having a conversation with people about what you're seeing, and trying to find ways to better understand our society and our myriad cultures that make up this society.